And we are live.
SoundMinds. SoundMinds. Rap poet was saying SoundMinds too. He was a little muted, but we already know what the energy is. It is Sunday evening, 7 p.m. This is now the 8th episode of the 3rd season, y'all. And when I tell you that it's like a relay race where the person's kind of like behind and we ain't, but then we just take off and go. This is one of those episodes where you know where we gonna get in front of everybody with the baton that we carrying, man, because we got one of the dopest gems of hip hop, man. One of the hidden gems. Every time you listen to probably one of your favorite artists, you're gonna know that the perfection of the sound, the perfection of how it's mixed, mastered, the way that the whole, I'm gonna just say it, the way that all the Dreamville sound kind of comes off is very much because of the man behind every curtain. And this man right here, by the name of Jerome Davis, when I tell you, you need to get familiar, if you haven't got familiar yet, we're going to talk about previous projects. We're going to talk about greatness. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff that he's done. And this right here is going to be one of those episodes that if you a hip hop head and you miss this, you're going to end up kicking yourself out. You know what I mean? So with all that being said, my brother, welcome to the SoundMinds podcast. Let's build.
SoundMinds.
Appreciate it. All right.
Self-suffice. You got to unmute yourself.
Word up. I was just saying salute to everybody on IG, making sure everybody is checking us. We streaming live on YouTube. We streaming live on Facebook. And we are posting your comments live. So make sure you post your comments and questions because it's as much about you as it is. Y'all know SoundMinds podcast is all about just having real conversations. The first question I want to say to my brother Mez, one of my greatest friends, and I want to definitely, I'm a big fan of giving people roses while they're here. I want to say, Mez, like before we get into our questions and everything, like how you doing? I noticed you in the tri-state and you usually all over the place. So how's it feel to be back at the delis and the bodegas and why real quick?
I'm good, man. I love New York. I missed it. I didn't for a while. I was not fucking with New York though. I ain't gonna lie. But this time coming back, I felt like I missed this. I'm I'm happy to be back out here in the middle of aggression. That's what New York is. Mad aggression. So yeah.
So as an engineer, right? You are a mixing and mastering engineer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you are signed to Dreamville?
No, I'm not signed as there's no contractual obligation.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as a mixing engineer, you're actually talking about you missing New York. So that means you are actually traveling out on the road, with doing your art.
Yeah. Wow. For sure. I mean, I was in LA for a while, and I lived in North Carolina a long time. And yeah, so
man,
that's it.
So, Mez, I got a quick question, brother. When, because you always, for the most part, man, we always see like the movies, right? Or we always see the shows and we always see great, but I'm always more so interested in the backstories of certain things. You know what I'm saying? So if you don't mind, brother, could you tell us when you kind of like knew like, yo, this is what I want to do. I love this. I just, you know what I mean? What was the reason as to what kept you being the engineer who you became and who you are now? And when did you know, like, nah, this is full time, full blown. This is what we're going to do.
I made a decision to do music first, which was, I was probably like 15, but I dropped out of school. So I had to pick something. And then I just went hard with music. I rapped, I was making beats, and I was engineering. So I was just doing everything at that point. But I don't know, the shift to engineering just came gradually. I just think it was something other people weren't willing to do, to be honest with you. I feel like it'd be nicer to have a better reasoning for that, But I did love it. I started loving it as I did it. But it was really, I think, more out of necessity.
Right.
because I was
So
determined
so
regardless to do music, you know. So if nobody else was doing
right, you saying the dream wasn't to be the engineer. You was the
it, yeah,
artist first.
yeah, right. And it was just that, you know, I was I guess I prided myself, especially younger, maybe not as much now, but younger, in like being willing to do what it takes, for
Mm,
anything, like being willing to pick up the slack and being willing to do whatever avenue it takes without really needing anyone else. Um, so, you know, it was also that it was like, oh nah, this is necessary. This is something that nobody wanted to do. You know, everybody wanted to rap and make beats.
right.
Yeah.
After with before we even get into like your catalog, like how many years have you been like when you committed to mixing and mastering, like being a mixing engineer? How many years has it been?
Um, I mean, for music, it's been 20 years. If we want to say mixing, I don't know. I guess I would put it off when I first like read a book on mixing, you know, which
Okay.
was called the Mix Engineer's Handbook. But I was already doing shit, you know. But that was the first time I read a book. I guess that's a little more serious. Like I'm gonna read the
Yeah,
whole,
you're gonna take it serious.
yeah, yeah, and I'm gonna apply the concepts in this book. And that I must have been 20 at that, so I'm 35 now, so that's 15 years.
15 years.
Yeah.
15 years. Now, in retrospect,
Mhm.
knowing what you know now as an engineer, you have the experience as an engineer. Do you want to still pursue as an artist, or do you wish you pursued being an artist over the mixing or engineer?
Yeah, at times. I mean, you know, I definitely sometimes I'm like, damn, should have
You
kept
be
that.
like, dang, I could do that too, right?
Like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And but then I've gone in and out. You know, it's not like I was like, oh, I'm an engineer. This is all done. You know, so I did projects while I was engineering,
Dope.
and I did different things, and I did writing, and I did, you know, so it wasn't all that, but altogether, I wish I would have stayed up on my writing and my and producing more. You know, maybe even more the producing. You know, even though it started that rapping was my main thing, but now I see like, oh, if I would have stayed up on producing more, I definitely could have had could have expanded my lane better.
Okay. Can
I
you
got it. I
expand
got
on
a funny
expound on that?
story. I got a funny story about that. There was a project where they had different artists of different genres, right? And we had to listen to each other's stuff and pick a song to do, right? So the girl, and we didn't know who it was. It was like almost a secret Santa of musicians. So the girl who had my joint, I gave her Manhattan Nights, right? Well, I didn't give her. I gave the company Manhattan Nights, and this girl had to look through that. Yo, she went through every track and picked out the one that you produced. And that's the one she did. And she did your verse, not even my verse.
Which one
So
did I
just
do?
to be clear, it
Boy,
was it was like we had two bonus tracks on Manhattan Night, and it was like, you know, it was like a
Hold
bonus
on.
track. But you
Rap,
produced it.
before you go into that, tell them what Manhattan Nights is, because the people that don't know what Manhattan Nights is, you know what I mean? So tell them what that is so that they understand what's going on.
Yo, someone said Manhattan Nights late company. Shout out, salute. I mean, I don't want to. I feel like it's like a
You need the
baby. You
background.
know what I
You need
mean?
the background. Go ahead, get
It's
the
a baby to
background.
me, so I don't want to get into that too much. But my point that I was saying is like, Mez is a humble dude, but when it comes down to it, like the beat he produced stood out more than like anything. And shout out to Young C. Young C is out here in Connecticut. You know what I mean? Shout out to Chemistry, G Wiz, God, everybody. Like dope producers. But I'm just saying on the Lizlo, the beat that Mez produced wasn't taking second seat to anything. You know what I mean? And then the lyrics he spit, he's one of my favorite MCs. So I just like to say stuff like that because a lot of times when people are speaking about one thing they do, It's like a very American thing. Like you speak Spanish and people are like, oh, you don't speak English good. You speak Japanese, they're like, oh, you don't speak English good. Like this is one of my favorite MCs that you're talking to. And he's being like, oh, I wish I would have stayed up on beats more. I want to give y'all context for those who don't know. Like he's really ill with it when he says that. It's not like he's a slouch in it and he's like, I wish I would have learned something about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I dedicated time. I did things with
So
I didn't just like, oh, I failed at this, so I'm going to this. It wasn't that type of thing.
and that's what I gotta. I mean, so Rap Poet just brought this up, man, and I gotta tell you straight off the bat, your energy, brother, is very. I respect it and salute it. You know what I'm saying? Because truth of the matter is that you have, and we're gonna get into your disc, you know, your whole resume of work, right? But you have worked with some of the greatest or some of the most known. You know what I mean? You have worked with one of the greatest and some of the most known. But I will say that for the most part, your humility shows off. Like there's no need to kind of like put that out there. And I respect that because truth of the matter is, like, at the end of it all, with the stuff that you've done, and let's just get into it, you have pretty much mastered what the Dreamville sound is. You know what I'm saying? You have your ear, like every album that you have worked on, every project, mixtape, everything that you have worked on has been a pristine sound that is just kind of like, yeah, Mez did that. You could tell. But yet, here it is, brother, I gotta say, and this is with all due respect, and I salute you for it. Many people have probably not seen what Mez looks like. You know what I'm saying? And I think that that's more on, I don't care to show that. You know what I'm saying? And I think that that's so dope because truth is, here it is. Correct me if I'm wrong, brother. Yeah. J. Cole, you have been in, you know, every project that J. Cole has done, I think his sound has changed. Probably, and I'm not going to say just because of you, but I think that you have been a big piece of that because it's just how certain things sound that it's just like, oh, that's that style and that's from that camp. You know what I mean? And I salute you for being that humble, brother, because truth is a lot of other people like, yo, what did it? Let's be honest, man. And I'll say it on, you know, I'll say it live. Puffy was a producer and Fam had to be dancing on everything. He had to do everything that Bad Boy was on. But here it is. You just like, nah, I'll play the low key, but you know my work when you hear it. You know what I'm saying? So if you can, man, can you speak on that humbleness, that humility?
I mean, I don't think it's just, I don't put people on a pedestal, I guess. You know, I don't look at it like, oh man, because he's so popular, you know, that makes necessarily makes me better or makes it a bigger deal than someone else talking. You know, I guess, you know, at least it's proven results, you know, but that's all it is. I don't think about it too much. I just don't buy into my own hype or his.
I would like to even add to what we're talking about of being an engineer. I see engineers even in the industry or just in our field, period. We are the background. And on top of that, we are the sound though.
Yeah.
That is put out. And that is actually not highlighted or recognized. Like when you look up on Spotify, you look up the credits, it says producer, it says song performed by, and it says songwriter or something. I forget which one. But it's not saying mixed by, mastered by, you know, which plays a major part from all of the songs that I have ever mixed. I realized me in that moment creating, making that drop right there, putting that echo at this certain spot, you know, filling in certain spaces, lining things up because some cat's timing is just a little off a little bit. You know, you fix that, you do that, and that is not highlighted. How can you speak to maybe from a that's from an outside looking in from the industry? Can you speak to it from being in the industry as is there a certain level of respect for the sound that you actually mix and engineer versus what's being overlooked?
I mean, I think it highly depends on who you're dealing with.
Okay.
Because the same way in general, some people might overlook that. So, it's the same thing with movies, though. They overlook a lot of stuff in movies too. So it just depends who you're dealing with and how much they care about that. I think there's even a lot of artists that might not really care about that, and they usually don't sound that great. Like they could still be dope though. Because I'm not gonna sit here like the mix is the most important piece of everything.
Right.
It's not. You know what I mean? But it is precision to make it sound professional.
Yeah.
Somebody I was talking to video director Scott Lasers who does a lot of Dreamville stuff once, and he said something to me, and he said like, "Oh, mixing is like something in video," and he asked me, and what he said though was kind of I don't know, just deep, because it was like a good edit is like you don't see it. You know what I mean? So it's like a good mix. You don't want anybody to go to hear the mix. You don't. The whole point is just that they're engulfed in the music, that they get to not think about the music. That it's all blended together and it just pulls them in. So I think even with that, that's kind of like you're trying to be unseen. Where I don't know, as the producer, the artist, that's not the goal.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it was actually like that more for producers too. They were more on the engineer side. We're not being seen, but we're in a space where every producer is putting their tags on every beat they make. You know what I'm saying? Like, do you see? You were 15 years in. You've actually got to see that progression.
Yeah.
But what about the progression of the engineer? Is it that
I think that came a long way too. But okay. I'm not even going to say, I think that just came a long way. We mean in terms of popularity.
Yes.
Yeah. But I think that's also, just.
You talking about in terms of like magazines and like associations, they're starting like social media. There's more internet channels that are saying this is for a mixer's magazine, a sound producer's magazine. There's just more forums.
I think there was
before it was just like
a percentage. Like it's just everything has grown to people being seen. So I don't know if engineers are actually more. I'm sure they were. It's just everything's grown to people being seen now. I'm sure in every industry, all the roles are more popular because now people want to see you when you're taking a shit. Like when's the artist taking a shit? Let me see that on Instagram. So it's just a deeper dive for everybody because the internet.
And what's crazy, man? I think for the most part, and that's one of the things. I was talking to my brother Roz, as a matter of fact, last night. You know what I'm saying? We was about to get, ready for this live with the Keisha Cole thing and Shanti. And got into that conversation, man, where the internet has made it where people have that mentality of it doesn't matter what I'm being seen for as much as it is that I'm being seen. You know what I mean? And it's funny, like there's a New York Yankees, right? Get into sports for a quick second. The New York Yankees have, they're probably one of the few teams that has no last name on their backs, on their jerseys. You know what I'm saying? And the whole mentality of it is it's about the name on the front. So it's about the Yankees as much as it is about the individual. So when that mentality kind of comes about and it's kind of like instilled, is more so it's always about the team, not necessarily about the individual. You know what I mean? But the crazy thing is that like Rod's kind of saying too, and Cal for that matter, is nobody's album would ever sound, because truth of the matter is you could put some heat out, and if it's mixed and mastered ugly or is you know what I mean, it doesn't sound right, it don't matter how hot the heat is. It's just like, yo, the joints sound trash though. You know what I mean? So when it's just a matter of the fact that you are the doctor that stitches all that together. You know what I mean? And then all the albums that you've worked on, man. Talk about Dreamville. We talk about, let's go down the line real quick, man. There's going to be more, but DJ Khaled's album, you know what I'm saying? Loso's Way, that album, the Royce the 5'9" album, You know what I mean? And just hearing it kind of like all come together, and it's like, oh snap, damn! If it wasn't for a dope engineer, dope mixer, dope masterer, album would be cute. You know what I mean? But you make it where
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
Yeah.
that's another thing too. Like, thank you, like, for to expound on, because a lot of people be like, oh, like, it's just short attention spans, right? That's part of what we're talking about. People are being conditioned to say, I know this because I saw it on the internet. When before the internet, there's more of an understanding that, like, when you came into a piece of information, it was the tip of the iceberg. Like, you knew something about it, but you didn't assume it. There's so many people who have first been introduced to learning something through the internet that they don't even have that concept. So they literally think they know it. So someone, when we say Dreamville, someone be like, oh, he's a Dreamville engineer. You know what I mean? Whereas, like, I knew Mez for years before, and he's been in the studio with people like J Lo, you know what I mean, or Dipset when they was doing stuff. And at the same time, whenever someone reach out to you, Mez, like, you probably remember this, but I never really told you just because we cool. But it would always blow my mind when just anybody at EO Dub or Pyramid or just underground New York would be like, or someone would email you, someone would hit you online and be like, yo, can you listen to this? And you'd be like, yeah, here's my email. You know what I'm saying? I don't think people realize that you never, like, were somebody who a certain camp was making you. You were just basically open to, like, yeah, if someone's reaching out and they seem serious, I'm working with them. I'm not like J Lo's engineer or this person or that person. And I think that that's something that I would like to ask you a question about, even though it's a natural thing. Like, if it's natural, you might not know how to ask it. But before I do that, I'm gonna turn down my mic because I'm hearing extra. So let's look at some of
Mic
the
check,
questions.
mic
I'm gonna
check.
fix my mic and
Yeah.
come back.
I'm glad you caught that. Good job. I'm glad you caught that because I was gonna ask you to just do that real quick. And with that being said, we can get into Carlos hip hop. Man, he said, peace and blessings. I'm curious, do you mix tracks even if you think the track is garbage? Do you personally have to feel the track to give it a great mix? And I think this is a great question.
That is a good question. Um, yeah, I will mix it if I think it's garbage. First of all, I'm not gonna lie to you. If a motherfucker's paying, you gonna mix it. If somebody wants a stupid low rate, you know, that it's not worth it to me, I'm only gonna do that if I think it's good. And there's some possible back end in it for me or something. Um, but and then the second part, do I have to like it to make it sound like a great mix? I'll end up liking it. I've mixed songs that I was like,
There you go.
This shit trash, and then I like it because what I did. I still know it's not their best song, though. It's not like I would start being like, "Whoo, this is a hit now."
Hey, but
I get it.
back on what Light said, the doctor goes in, the doctor, you go in and you do your doctor work.
Right.
Woo!
You have to like something about it. That's the thing. Like you're gonna have to. That's part of being an engineer, is even saying, "Oh, this is the good part. Let me accentuate that." So you have to kind of go, "Oh, like, what's good about this?" and pull that out. So in a sense, that's liking it. And I will get into it. I will start feeling it, regardless, even if I know in the back of my head, like, this guy's really amateur.
What do you say to fans, like this comment right here, that says, the warm up and Friday Night Lights got me through college, and you were literally a part of that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I'm glad it got him through college.
Well, Matt Div, who made that comment, he's putting out his first project, I believe. Don't kill me if I say this wrong, bro. It's like 12:20 at 12:20 p.m. It's something dope like that, or 12:15. So he's actually like an engineer and producer himself. You know what I mean? So it's like, on one hand, you are to speak about the influence of engineers, right? And that's what I was getting to. Thank God that background sounds going on. But on one hand, it's like you're helping people have the music they want, right?
Yeah.
And when the music sounds better, all they know is production and MC. So they're saying, wow, that MC's verse was dope, or that production was dope. They don't know to say, wow, that mix and that frequency and that tonality and that background sound. They're basically trying to say that, and it comes out as that's a dope MC, right? So
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting if we really look about what they're saying. You kind of know you're getting compliments from people all the time, even though they're not saying it directly.
Yeah. For sure.
In this case, this is a dude saying, not only did I love the MC and the music and the production, he's saying, I do this thing. You feel me? Like, you're one of the people who influenced me to do this thing. You know, do you get a lot of people like that where it's like, I was thinking mixing was like whack, or I was starting to get tired of hip hop, but whether it's Dreamville, whether it's you being a mixer, a producer, just a cool person, you have like mentees or people that have told you you made them want to pursue it more?
Yeah, I've gotten that here and there. More people I work with, if anything, you know. You definitely try to push people, but it's not.
That's dope, man. Yeah, my fault. Nah, I was gonna say that's dope, man, because truth of the matter is, as in the culture of art, right? Whenever an artist is any art that is valued, that has immense value in it, a lot of people who, like, let's just say Bob Ross. Bob Ross was a tremendous painter, you know what I mean? And then I caught for those who don't know who Bob Ross was, he was the dude with the afro, Caucasian dude with the afro, with the ill painting style that everybody was like, yo, I know him. He, you know, I caught an episode where his son was painting just like him. You know what I'm saying? And it's just kind of like what you're saying right now. You try to do what you can to mentor others to keep the culture kind of going. You know what I mean? And even unconsciously or consciously, whether you're doing that, it's kind of like, let's preserve the beauty of this art form, the beauty of this culture, so that we can keep it going and not get diluted the way it kind of has been. You know what I'm saying? And for the most part nowadays, it's not even, you know, I can't tell you how many people put out a track, not mixed, not mastered, and it's just like, yo, they blew up off of some humming on words and being able to sing for a little bit. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's dope that you have that mentality. It's like, nah, I love to mentor those who want to be mentored into what I do and what it is that the culture preserves. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to you for that, man. And then on top of that, man, 1,000%, 1,000%. And then the other thing too, man, is a lot of people, for those who know Dreamville, right, and it's kind of frequent. Well, it's kind of, I'm not going to say recent, but the last 5-6 years, Dreamville was like, oh snap, that's, you know, J. Cole, that's JID, that's Bozzy, you know what I mean? And it's just kind of like, you know, all these artists, right? And then people will put you and say, oh, the engineer is Mez, you know what I mean? Or the person that makes it sound dope is Mez, but you have such a dope resume though. Even before that, you know what I'm saying? You was part of MIC, which is Manhattan Islands Arts, you know what I'm saying? Which was known to be part of two dope MCs that so many people give so much credit to, which is MF Grimm and MF Doom. And that right there, historically, you know what I mean? Like, it's just the people who catch Joe Pesci on Goodfellas and say, oh yeah, I know him for Goodfellas. Yeah, but he did so much other work before that. You know what I'm saying? So your veins, your roots in the culture of hip hop has been so embedded for so long. Can you speak on that? Could you speak on in regards to the resume that you have and how long you've been part of this culture?
I mean, a lot of ways I just grew up on hip hop. You're from New York, it's kind of like that, you know, especially 90s, 80s, 90s type of thing. But yeah, I mean, at one point I was MF Mez. So on MF Grimm's album, I'm MF Mez. And I'm
MF Mez and Destroyer too.
Yeah. I'm
and Destroyer.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm grateful for those experiences. I definitely enjoy that. It was a part of my life, and to be part of that for the time I was part of that, and taught me a lot. You know.
Didn't you mix like the first triple album in history or something?
Yeah.
Because I remember Grimm had American Hunger was a triple, right?
Yeah, in hip hop, I think there was in other genres.
But still, my G, that's crazy. A
He
triple
he he
album.
said he said yeah.
That's
You know,
crazy,
in
bro.
hip hop, you know, it's light. Yeah, it's just in hip hop. You know, light
Y'all
work.
see what I'm saying? I'm like, it's just the humility. Part of the interview isn't just the questions he's asking, but I just want people to notice the way somebody that moves, the way they really be moving. Like he did like the first triple album in history. It's just like, yeah, it was one of them. Like, and I guess that's kind of the attitude when you get so caught up in I think something that might relate to even more commercial acts and underground acts actually, because when I started getting more commercial success and close to that, I kind of had the worst writer's block in my life and the worst like anxieties in my life because of the success I was having.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? It's like when you, if you have the attitude like, oh, I did this great thing, does that get in the way of you
It
continuing?
can. I don't think, but I think that's common for sure. I don't think it. I think you could also just be great and know you're great, and say it out loud too, and be boisterous, and it's still work. But I do know you get pressure. All artists and all the big artists I see, it's clear the pressure changes from when people weren't listening and they allow them to do some of their best work to when people are listening, and now there's the added pressure of pleasing people, which is never where you want to be as an artist. And even the people that try not to do that, like a Cole and a lot of Dreamville, but many others, Kendrick and a lot of people are trying not to necessarily, they want to please the fans, but it's like try to stay away from that. I still see they have those pressures, like I think that still very much messes with your head. Like I'm sure you, when you had some success, was the same thing. Like you were probably sitting there trying not to get into that, and that's a stall because it is a conflicted in your head, like you want to do one thing, but then you think the people want this, and not only that, the fact that the judgment happens. You put something out, and judgment coming,
That's big.
and it's going to be a lot of negative comments. Now, it's not to say
Right.
that it could be overwhelmingly positive, but the negative
Yes.
comments are going to fuck with you. One negative
Yo,
comment
you're
is going to
speaking
equal,
gems
yeah,
right
it's going to
now.
equal 1,000 positive comments, like in your head. Now, sure, I think if you have a sound mind, you can get around that.
I get
Sound
sound
I'm
mind.
lyricist.
Yo, that's my clip. Just so y'all know, next week when you see my video clip for this,
Yeah,
that's the one.
And
Yo,
I think that's what it's about, though.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know what I mean? Like, I think that when you build a strong enough foundation, right? Because truth of the matter is, there are those who are always going to have um, something to say just to have something to say. And
yeah.
then there are those that out of love are always going to tell you, like, yo, when you chewing with your mouth open, understand how you look to others. You know what I'm saying? And that, so it's just kind of like out of love, that's the difference between, and it happens in our own relationships. You know what I mean? Being married or having children or, brotherhoods. The difference between constructive criticism and destructive criticism. You know what I mean? Where destructive criticism comes more from, yo, let me just talk the talk. Whereas constructive is like, yo, fam, we sitting in a room full of a whole bunch of people that paid $300 per their plate. When you chew, just be a little easy. You know what I'm saying? and that's that love. You know what I'm saying? So, and I think that is so dope because you work with so many cats and you work with so many artists that sometimes that's what that is, where it's just kind of like, yo, as the engineer, as the mixer, as the one that's going to master this track, just trust me. You know what I'm saying? I would never do nothing to misguide you. I'm trying to actually help you. You know what I'm saying? And that's big, especially, in more so with men. You know what I mean? Because we have that egotistical, I want to roar. I want to be that lion. But sometimes it's like, yo, you don't have to be a lion. You could be a bird that can soar past the lion and not have to worry about the lion's roar. Just pick and choose which one you're going to be when it's time to be that, rather than just being different things at all given times. You know what I mean? So I
Real
think
quick,
that's
I
dope.
wanna I wanna even not even breeze past what he just spoke about, because what I wanna ask him, based off of your experience now in retrospect, you know, when was that moment for you personally? You know, for all of us, for all of the engineers to come out and have this experience, we've had that experience of nervousness when the track release, you know, or that hitting that certain success point. You know, when was that moment for you to be like, all right, I made it here and I can't let it get to me, you know, you had that battle.
Battle's
Yeah,
not over.
the battle's not over. Let's go.
That's always going on. I don't know. I don't know anyone that's totally past that. You know, I know people that actively try not to get into that. You know, but
So it's a daily practice.
it's daily. I mean, you know, it's only when you're thinking about it. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a thought that comes into your head. Do you stay with that thought? Do you give it power? Do you know, what do you do with that thought? So, you know, and I'm sure there's a way past that, but it's, to me, that's like saying, what's the, you know, what is the way to like enlightenment or something? Like, it's like the way, that's the way past everything. If you get to the point that, no, like these are constructive things and I'm going towards constructive things, and the things that don't mean anything, you know, because that's what those things are. They don't mean anything. That's
It's
really
it's mind over matter, because the
yeah,
mind really matters.
yeah. So, you know, it's just like, if you're at that point, you know, I don't know what type of human being that is. That's an enlightened human being, you know, is no, they just completely dismiss the thoughts that don't serve them.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah,
that's what you
that's really
practice.
why I'm glad that you answered that, because like I teach this, you know, I teach people writer's block, breaking writer's block and stage performance rhinos, like on the college level. And I say that to say I don't just talk out my behind, right? Like I have proven that I know how to get people through it effectively enough
Yeah.
where people ask me to come back and do that. And even I feel that pressure, and even I know it's not easy, right?
Mm.
So when I'm walking people through it, I'm like, that one negative feedback out of those 1,000 comments, even if you're signed, even if you've done this and you know you're dope, there's something about the human psyche. If you are an artist in the first place, you kind of care.
What was that last bit?
Why you mute yourself like that?
You kind of care. I was
Yeah.
I was getting that feedback loop again. But yeah, you kind of care, and I think it's cool to admit that, because like Light, me and Light have similar ideas about it, but a little different. My thing about constructive criticism isn't so much the place it's coming from; it's also a little bit of how it's done. So like, if you understand that somebody has Tourette syndrome or something that's ridiculous to you, but that person has that reaction, for me, part of the constructive criticism is like, okay, what is the next step for this person? You know what I'm saying? And I think that's important. Again, like most of the stuff we give is like, what advice can we give to underground artists that we learn from bigger people? But in this case, this is actually something that bigger people can learn from us, right? Because it's almost like the more successful you are, the less people want to be like, oh, you're still human and you still need to be given like, yo,
Right.
you got like platinum albums out. And I'm not saying anything about anyone in particular, but I know you, and I'm assuming that's what you do with a lot of these bigger people. Be like, I know the influence you have on me and other people we work with, so I'm thinking that's part of what you do. You know, for people who've already been successful, is to be like, look, you're still human, bro. Like you've never been like the type like you're a celebrity. That you're still human. If there's an issue, I know I could check in with Mez and be like, yo, Mez, people might not relate that I'm struggling with this. What is my next step? And I think that's part of the artistic process because, again, if you're an artist, you do kind of care about other people's opinions.
You have to. That's the whole conflict. I think that's why it's so hard. You're in conflict. How do you get out of that conflict? This is a question that goes deeper than music, you know?
Oh yeah.
Like, you want to, even the fact that, you know, like you want to be liked, but people don't like you when you want to be liked. And that is what.
Yeah, that, I mean, you know,
Yeah,
the
no,
crazy.
that's all.
Yeah, go ahead. I was going to say for the most part, man, that's why for the most, you know, as we all know, man, and we're going to get into a question that one of our audience members asked, man, but I think for the most part, that's one of the things, like with me, I tell everybody, I've said this many times on the podcast, when I pick up the phone and somebody calls me my own jack, my own phone, peace. You know what I mean? And even if I know who it is, peace.
Yeah.
Positive energy always causes elevation. I start with that. I end with that. Now, in between those two pieces, you and I could argue, we could disagree, we could do whatever it is. But my mentality is I'm going into this with the thoughts of peace, and I'm ending it with peace. Now, in regards to the construction or the destruction in between, as we know as artists, we always going to be a little bit more sensitive about what it is that we do and who we are, especially when we, like you said, because we have a SoundMinds. You know what I mean? Without that brotherhood, doing this alone, it creates a mentality of it's me against the world. And still, even with SoundMinds, I personally still feel like, nah, it's still me against the world. But I got my brothers. When we need it, let's go to war. You know what I mean? But I think for the most part, that positive energy, right, is so understated in the life that we currently live. Everything is negative. Everything is attention. Everything is, you know what I'm saying? So it's just kind of like, damn, all right, cool. How do we get to the point of being as powerful and as strong as we are without it being destructive or seen as something that is negative? How do we stay on that positive realm, but still give that strength and power to those who may not understand what positivity is? You know what I'm saying? So we have a dope question for you. Who are some of your influences as MCs, producers, engineers, mixers, masters, whatever, you know, who were some of your influences? Or who are some of your influences now?
Now, yeah.
Yeah. Well, is this like who I worked with or type of influences, like actual influences, or like people I looked at from afar type of thing?
Both. Let's just do both.
Like people
Start
that
start from the beginning, from afar, and then come into who you work with.
Like I was always a big fan of Nas. You know, as a rapper, I thought he was the best. Loved him, and never really worked with him. I've met him, but he was definitely the best rapper to me. So he was a big influence. Eminem was a big influence when I was rapping. I thought he was incredible. Big Pun was probably my top. When I started getting into engineering, I don't know if I really watched engineers. You know, it was like the same time. Like by the time I was nice, then I started looking at other engineers as like, who's this guy, who's that guy? Because the way I went into it wasn't a way of like, I'm gonna do this, let me study all these guys. It was more like, nah, somebody got to do this, and I just got nice. So that I will say, one person I did know was Duro, like, and he's one person that vouched for me very early on, and he's actually, like, the way people talked about him, I always thought like he's cool as an engineer, because often engineers are soft. You know what I mean? Like, they're just like the guy in the room that people kick around, you know? And I've had numerous situations like that myself where I had to be like, yo,
Shit.
I'm not that
yeah, like,
dude.
fuck you up
This is
now.
Vince.
Yeah, because, you know, you're the employee,
Right.
and they sometimes people step out of line to where, you know, especially working with big artists sometimes, to where it's like you're not a human if it's that type of artist, you know. But yeah,
Wait, Mez,
Yeah.
let me say a relatable point. For people who don't, because Mez also like I know the last Dreamville show I was at, um, Mez was doing the
No,
sound
I don't
live
do.
too.
I don't
You know
do
what I'm
live
saying? So
sound.
he's doing it in the studio.
I was
Well, you
there.
was
I don't
there.
do live sound though. That's Ray.
Oh, okay. So what
I
was
don't
you
know. Just
doing
being there probably. Depends. I'm. I don't know what show you talking about.
when you came to Connecticut, bro?
Who was performing? That was Cole.
Cole.
Oh, no,
It was
I was just
KLD.
there. I mean, like, I was his engineer on the road. I set up to record it.
Oh, so you was recording stuff in the
Yeah,
bus or
yeah, yeah,
whatever. Got you. Okay.
yeah.
So one thing that a lot of people can relate to from just shows, performers, going to venues, is a lot of times you hear the MC like, "Yo, sound man, yo, sound man," and it doesn't matter what they
Yeah,
saying, but the sentence start, "Yo, sound man," and it's like, bro, you
yeah.
got the mic like this, you holding the mic crooked, it's a unidirectional mic, you holding it like this, and they yelling at the sound man. So it's almost like people try to come at you with that same thing in the studio, kind of.
Yeah, yeah, it's the best thing. And then like the death rows days, they were beating up engineers. There's a lot of stories like engineers had it hard, but yeah, I couldn't deal with that. And I go to saying Duro, like the stories that they tell me about Duro was like, nah, he just gonna walk out the room type of thing. And everybody looked at him like, oh, these rappers was riding around in Bentleys. Duro was already doing that. Just as an engineer, he was engineering everything. So I always looked at him like, oh man, like he's the man, you know. And I had the pleasure of knowing him and him being around and giving me tips before. So he was definitely an influence. The engineers I like the most besides him are like I like Manny American. Like I love his mixes. I'd be a lot of times that he just be somebody that I'm like, yo, who mixed this? And I look and it's him, you know. And Serb and Gania. Those are both like pop engineers, but man, they're amazing, you know. And I fuck with Ali, Kendrick's engineer. Of course, he's one of the best. And you know, a lot of top guys. I'll always
Do
like them.
you collaborate with engineers? Like I
Yeah,
know
yeah.
a lot of times there's a mixer that collaborates with a masterer,
Uh-huh.
but is it ever like two mixers or two masterers collaborating?
Oh yeah, I mean, like when there's like the London with Young Thug and Cole, like Tomei did some stuff on it, and then Travis Scott engineer did some stuff on it. Then it came to me, and I did some stuff on it. So I mean, that was a collaboration. Not necessarily like we doing stuff together. You know what I mean? But still, like they did some stuff, I did some stuff, and then it came in.
And
So
then once you were in it and saw like, okay, I'm in this now. What are these other guys doing? Did you look back at people like Bob Powers and Hank Shockley, and
yeah,
even someone newer like Guru at Rock? Like, are those
mhm,
people you learn anything from, or
for sure. I mean, like anybody that it's funny because it's not really the person. I know the people, but it's really the song. So like really where it is. Another person I like a lot is Leslie Brathwaite, which it's another thing where it's just like I just have songs that I go to listen to make sure my mix is good.
Okay, yep,
They're
yep,
like
yep.
references. So all these people I have is not necessarily that I went, oh, I like them. Let me find their stuff. It's just this song sounds particularly good,
Yep.
and then that will be in my list of songs to listen to check against my song. And those are the names that just pop up in there. So that's why sometimes, like, if somebody's not so current, I might not even think about it, because like a Bob Powers, because it might not be in my list of things. Though I do have Lauryn Hill in some of them things.
So I got a couple gems that you could possibly drop for the engineers out there.
Uh,
Even based off what you just said now, like, is that a standard where you always have a song that you have to compare your mix against, or do you have yourself up to a preset settings? Do you work yourself up to things are preset where you know that you've hit a certain sound and a mark and it's there, you don't have to do the comparison, or do you always do
I
that's
think I think
practice?
I think you always do. I mean, I always do. I have a I even have like a plugin that has a preset list of songs in it that I change
Oh,
sometimes. That's called AB, and I could just click it whenever I feel like it. More than just though, like it's not like, oh, let me. Sometimes it's like, let me make it sound like this shit, just because that's what you want. But most of the time it's just like, uh, let me make sure my shit hold up more than anything, because you don't want, like the sounds are different. It's a whole different songs, even if they're similar. Um, but it's more like that. Can I go from this song to my song and it sounds good, or does my shit sound uh like
is there a catalog? Do you have it like,
yeah, I have a list
you
of
know,
songs. I do have
like
a list
the
of
trap goes with the trap,
oh, yeah,
the
yeah, I
boom
do.
bat goes with the boom bat.
Even in my playlist, it's like they all say refs.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
These aren't the ones that load in the plugin, because I have the high quality files of those, and that's just a bunch of different songs. Some of my favorite mixes. But no, I have like in my iTunes playlist, that I just add to sometimes. It's like refs trap, or refs 808, refs
Gem.
hip hop, refs R&B, refs, this or that. Um, just because I like the way the song sounds. So sometimes I'm hearing something, and I just might, I keep listening to this. I like the way it sounds, and I'll throw it in the list. Yeah.
So that really does make a difference, right? For people who are like Raz coming from the engineer's perspective, and I'm speaking on behalf of people that are damn clueless, right? Like back when I remember one time we was at Rocksteady, and I could say this because of how it ends, but we was one time at Rocksteady, we was having a cipher. Mez had a mini audio recorder like before anybody had like a memory card with it, and I think Jim jumped in the cipher with us, right? Jim, crazy battle MC. He was the first to like win 50,000 of battling. And Jim was rapping and knocked the thing out Mez head by accident. So Mez was about to knock his head off. And then I was like, chill, chill. Like, I'm trying to squash the knee. So then, like, later on at some point, I was like, yo, I mentioned Jen or something. I was like, oh, you heard Jen's new thing? And Mess like, yeah, I just did a track with him. Like, I just mixed his joint. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
So
missed his album after that. Shout
that's
out.
the type of thing, like it's just like whatever's happening, like not out to like overdo things or over lift people up or put them down. It's just like whatever's appropriate at the moment. And that is not a noun in the comments. He had a good point about cannabis. So to that point on the questions, like for people like us that are like, yo, I'm out in the street in a cipher and like I make the whole block go crazy off this punchline. But that same skill, when heard on a CD or the radio or MP3, like it's not outside and people are hearing the traffic. Like little sounds could make it different. Do you feel like how much did someone like a dope crazy MC like Cannabis not having a high level of mixing, or how much does I'll give an example. You mentioned Kendrick. There's a track with Future and Kendrick, and I think J Rock was on that as well. But there's this one point where Future goes,
I
like
know.
he literally, to Lightskin's point, he literally is not speaking any language, not just English. He's not speaking a language, but it sounds
He's a
fire.
lot of that.
And this is subjective, so some people may disagree with me, but it sounds fire. And when I'm talking to kids in the colleges about like art and creation, I use that as an example because I'm like, there's an engineer there that mixed that, and it sounds better than I would talking right now if I was mixed. Is that true? Like you could have a dope MC without a mix would not sound as good as people thought, or you could have a great MC like Cannabis, who without the mix wouldn't sound as good as they thought?
I mean, of course, people are going to sound different. You know, I'll say the flip side. Sometimes clarity, a lot of times, clarity makes you sound worse. You know, you would think it's all about clear. And me, a long time, I used to go, oh,
hold on, rewind.
Rewind. Dropping the
Because
gem right now on the SoundMinds
we
Hip Hop.
talking about
Tell your friends, YouTube, SoundMindsHipHop.com, Facebook /SoundMinds Hip Hop. My brother is dropping gems.
say that again. Clarity, what?
sometimes makes you sound worse because it's one, like distortion and stuff is also an effect. You know, of course, we know auto-tune's an effect, we know reverb's an effect, we know all that stuff, but distortion's also an effect, you know. And sometimes even we go to all these things are unmixed and they did, you know, and they still come out and do their thing, you know. If you take that and you try to make it sound too good, I'm sure it could be improved, you know what I mean? But you might make it sound too good, you know, try to get all the distortion out or something like that. And then it's just going to sound, it might sound worse, you know, and sometimes that does happen. If you don't have an engineer that understands like what the song needs rather than just things sounding good. It's not like the movies kind of, you know.
Right.
They say you can over mix your mix.
Right. Yeah. And I think a good example of that, and I'm gonna get into a question as well, man, because this goes into what I wanted to ask you. I don't remember. I don't know if a lot of people remember Case's track. Damn, I forgot the name of the track, but there's a story behind it where he said that he was in the studio so long and he was sick, and at the end of the track, he says, "I can't sing no more," and that was really him. And he was like, "Nah," I told him to keep that in there because it was so natural. But to mix and master, like, you know what I mean? Like at the end, I'm pretty sure there was probably somebody who was like, "Yo, take that off. You sound a little sick," and somebody made the ultimate decision, was like, nah, we need to keep that in there because there's that right there. It's its own perfection of imperfection. You know what I mean? So I gotta ask you a question, brother.
Mm-hmm.
Revenge of the Dreamers 3.
Mm-hmm.
Well documented. Mm-hmm. One of the dopest conceptual albums that was put out just because of the way that it was done. You know what I mean? Very limited amount of time. Brought all types of producers, all types of artists. Was like, yo, get in there. Nah, you don't sound right on that track. Let's get somebody else. How much of that, and I gotta ask you, brother, how much of that was fun and how much of that was like, oh, this is crazy?
Oh no.
So
for me, it was a straight headache. But mixing it was fun. But being in the studio, I like sat upstairs most of the time. Also, I don't smoke weed. And that shit was everywhere. Like, so if I went downstairs, I would be high. Like, and I literally felt like contact. I don't think I ever before felt contact high, even though I've been in a room with weed. But like in those, I like started to like feel like things that I only felt when I used to smoke weed. You know what I mean? And so I just stayed upstairs because it was a headache. But everybody had fun. I know.
Nah, it looked like,
but
it looked like so much fun.
It did look like absolute fun. Like,
it looked, but I
made me want to bring that this way. Like, we need to really do that. We need to do that. You know what I mean?
Hell yeah! And the only reason why I asked that because I'm just like, damn, Mez is the dude. Ultimately, like, you stitch all these sounds together, right? And you stitch everything together and say, yo, this sounds dope like this. This sounds like. And I could, again, going back to the ego, me being an MC, being a lyricist, spoken word artist, like, I'm so like, yo, hold on. My verse was better than that. Why am I getting taken? You know what I mean? I could only imagine certain dudes is like, yo, hold on now. Why am I getting taken? All right, cool. I guess I get taken out. And then, you know, because a lot of that comes from, well, nah, I'm hearing it from a perspective of the perfection of the sound and how this track goes together with this verse. You know what I'm saying?
So So a lot of it was done also, though, not like right there, like, yo, take him off, put him on. You see what I'm saying? So like, I don't think they got into that a lot. later on, and when we went through it without nobody there, you know, who Ebe, who's the president of the company, went through most of it. That's when it was like, take this off.
Those are the
Shout out to
final. Those are
Eve,
the final
yo.
decisions. You know,
Yeah,
final
and
decisions
so
need to be
like,
made.
yeah, and also you don't want to embarrass somebody. So they whoever did get cut off this track or that track might have been mad. I don't know. We don't really know. But also, you know, they could deal with it on their own time. You don't want to be in there. That's just gonna mess up the whole room at that point, because you're gonna be making somebody mad and you're gonna be in conflict. You know, so it wasn't nothing like that while they were. Everybody was working together. Just throw it on. Everything was super encouraging there.
So part of the thing wasn't just creating an album. It was also showing that like this is a venue for people getting together and working together regardless of what comes
Yeah.
out of it.
Yeah, I mean, it was
Okay.
it was pretty random. You know, I don't think they thought it was gonna be that crazy either. Like, it picked up really crazy on the internet, people sneaking in, that, and like famous people sneaking in. You know, not super famous, but like they're big writers or whatever. You know, but like trying to get in with their friend or getting in there somehow, even though no one invited them. But maybe they saw someone they knew. You know, because they did that whole golden ticket thing. I don't know,
Wow.
y'all were on all
Yo,
day.
I never remember
It
when
went
you
crazy. They
posted
didn't think it was
yours.
gonna go that crazy. It was just a whole
When you
thing.
posted yours,
Yeah.
I literally remember the caption you put because it was so like people will understand what I'm saying after seeing you how you deal with things on this podcast.
Yeah.
But I literally remember your caption was like Dreamville told me I had to, or Dreamville said to post this.
Made,
You know what I mean? So all these people are like trying to have a golden ticket and post it, and you're like, I gotta post
I
this.
gotta post this.
Dreamville Revenge is coming out. My name's on here. But like to that point too about being like in a different set than a lot of engineers and mixers and not necessarily having that many role models. I gotta shout out my queen Sacha's here. She said, "What's up?" She had an interesting question too. Like, is there a lack of like is it mostly white people in the field in terms of engineering, particularly mixing and mastering? Is there a lack of other Asian people of color
well,
in the field or
uh, I'm not like in with all these people, to be honest. Like, I stay to myself, so I haven't really looked at that. And then the engineers I know, it's not uh white. You know what I mean? So
right?
because the only people I actually know personally are like Ali, you know, who I've hung out with before, who's the homie, and you know, Duro. I know, you know, they're not white. And then looking at from the outside, just like the people I know, yeah, some of them are white, but not necessarily an overwhelming amount. But maybe it is.
You
If I
don't
went
you
to
don't have
Miami
to
Buc-ee's, I
ask.
might feel different, you know?
See that's what I was wondering. Like, and you don't have to answer this because you might not know or think about it. But I'm just wondering. Um, do you think that has something to do with the times we're in where like there's been a digital divide for people of color where like a lot of people take for granted that a lot of people of color still don't have access to higher speed internet and computer and software. So a lot of times all these things come out. But even worse than that is the networking. So do you feel like the fact that you can get plugins and software or have a friend, sometimes things are even cracked or whatever,
Yeah.
but do you feel like the fact that there's more availability of software where you don't have to know someone in the studio might have made it less of an issue for people of color who weren't in the network to like run studio sessions now or something like that?
Oh, I mean, for poor people in general, yeah, of course, any more access is better, and things are more accessible than ever. But yeah, I don't think it was you know, a particularly maybe people of color thing, because
Okay.
we talk about more so a racist thing rather than just you don't have access because you're poor, you know.
Right.
Like maybe, I mean, for the most part, man, maybe to
Mhm.
Rap Poet's point, right? Having a mix by Ali, Mez, you know what I'm saying, class for the young. You know what I'm saying? And just kind of give them that, maybe down the line, something that y'all can think about, just coming together and giving that type of accessibility to those who don't have that accessibility.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I think that'll be dope, man. Super dope. You know what I'm saying? And especially in the vein of what.
There's a lot of class. He got a whole thing called engineers.
That's dope.
Yeah, which I'm sure they're not free, but I'm sure he'll eventually do some free things, and he does do free things like free stuff on Twitch and stuff like that. I haven't really done many of those things, though I deal with him on the engineer stuff, like when talks about a lot of stuff, and I'm definitely part of that and give my full support. And yeah, another guy, Alex Toomey, who did a lot of the Young Thug stuff. He does a Twitch. I think it's is that free? Toomey Twitch? Yeah, that's free.
That's fire.
Yeah, so like they do get a chance. It is accessible to just go on there. I thought about doing one. I just, it's a lot to
wrap your mind.
Well, let us know. We'll big it up on SoundMinds.
Yeah, whatever needed, brother.
No
needed.
We had a brother who was the first to go on America's Got Talent and win with spoken word, with no music, no glittery suits, no dancing. And he went on, and like every time they was voting, we was like SoundMinds. So anytime you are trying to do something, like let us know. You in the constellation, you in the SoundMinds. And speaking of that topic of like the youth and everything, your son now, Riken, shout out to you, nephew. I know you're gonna see this one day eventually. You 13 now. To people like me who seen you since you was like a little this tall, we just so proud that you making it through. You're gonna show us engineering concepts we never even imagined now and holographs, and you're gonna have your PS5. Like you're gonna look at your PS5 the way we looked at Nintendo and think our games is dumb and boring. So
dude, I still gotta get that PS5, yo. So don't, you know what I mean? Them things
it's hard to do.
He just put a little pressure on you now. Now you really got to get it.
I got.
Naz, let me ask you a question. Yeah, real quick, brother. I got to ask you. Again, I'll go down the line. All of Dreamville, DJ Khaled, Fabulous.
Every single Dreamville album that ever came out.
You did all of them, right?
And that's the whole album.
Oh, majority
of songs.
Okay. Fabulous, DJ Khaled, Royce the 5'9's album, and the J-Lo and all the others. Out of everything that you worked on,
these are just people I worked with, or maybe make here or there. Dreamville's the only thing that I was full album
exclusive, right?
And Cole's really the only thing that it's like, nah, I did everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Just and then even outside of Dreamville, the whole J. Cole catalog, right?
Yeah.
My question to you: what has been your favorite project that you worked on, or something that you put out? You know what I mean? Something that you helped put out that you like. That's the one. That's the one that for me was the flag.
Like as an engineer, or that I like the most.
Both. Okay. Yeah, as an engineer, and something that you kind of was a part of that you was like, I like that, whether it be a track or a project. You know what I mean? What is your favorite joint that you like? Damn, that right there, I'm super proud of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Forest Hills Drive was probably the thing, but then I really did like Earth Gang's last album, which I did a lot of work on. Like engineering wise, it was fun. You know what I'm saying? Because they do whatever. They be going crazy, But I like everyone. I'm super proud of everybody I worked with over there. Ari Lennox, Jid, Lute, and I'm glad that I got to work with any of them, on their projects, and that they're such bigger artists now than when I worked on them. You know what I mean? But yeah.
Yo, the Start Your Own Rebellion project, which is like the closest I would say is like Gorillas. For people who know what Gorillas, post up in the chat if you know what I'm talking about. You see them as cartoons, right? And that's the brand. They're the cartoon characters. You had a project like that, Start Your Own Rebellion. You had comic books, a little animation. And that's like my favorite Cole verse, by the way. The verse on the song "Let It Go." I actually used it for the promo on this. You got a verse that I quoted because you got a bar that says, "I guess you're quick to draw, but don't get the bigger picture." So your bar was crazy. For people who want to dose, obviously Manhattanite, the thing that Light mentioned, and me got Mez is on every track of that. Crazy. But that verse right there and "Let It Go" is just super dope. And it's also my favorite Cole verse because he's basically talking about going from that point where you're starting to take any career seriously. You don't have to even think of it MCing. He's describing the process of taking anything seriously enough. And what's happening psychologically as you're starting to take things more seriously. So that "Start Your Own Rebellion," like, do you even remember doing that? Was that a small thing to you, or do you feel like it was a dope project too, like I do?
What, the Start Your Own Rebellion project? No, that was definitely a big part of my life. Yeah, definitely a very important part of my life, and definitely loved it. I mean, that was my last probably like go hard as an artist, as a writer, as writing stuff. And yeah, no, it definitely wasn't something just on the side or done quickly. Like even our project, we knocked that out. That was almost like, yo, what's up, yo? Let's do a project. Boom.
You
It's
giving
like
away secrets
one
right now.
weekend. Yeah, one weekend we knocked out a whole album. Start Your
Yo,
was like work. So
yo,
like,
this
like it's grueling in my mind.
Here's a question from the chat: Dead or alive artists, who would you love to mix their project? Dead or alive? Let's go.
Boy, dead or alive, huh?
Mm.
That's you got a lot of thought in there.
Let's go. Let's go alive. Let's go alive.
Let's do a live.
Let's do
like
it
Jimi
live.
Hendrix. Like that's a lot
Like
of
what,
people.
Mozart? Like what? Are we gonna go back to that? Like
Yeah.
what kind of music? Let's go to that. Like
Yeah.
So I'll forever be like, oh, I did the first album ever. Like that.
The first person to make music.
To be like, yeah, I did the first album ever.
Yeah.
Like they was beating with sticks and stones
Yeah.
in the cave. So
Yeah, I did the first album ever. That's all I ever got to say to anybody. Like,
Anybody right for
yeah, you can't tell me nothing after that.
Live back.
Alive. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have any. Nobody that comes to mind in particular. Definitely people I like out there. Last rapper that really caught my attention was Anderson .Paak. That I got super into their music and was just a fan of them for a second.
Where you can imagine you actually doing a project with them in a sense.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't even a thought of that. It
Okay.
was just like, because it's not like I listen to stuff and I go, oh, I want to work with this person.
Okay.
Sometimes, but even if that's the case, that's like a smaller artist because, like I feel like, oh, you need me,
how much of it is like
would already sound good. I'm not like the guy to be like, I need to be working with them, like I would like to, but like you already sound good.
Yeah.
Like, so like, it's not like I feel, oh, I need to be there to for your benefit,
wow. That's the other side of that question of like, would you mix something that sounds horrible? It's almost like sometimes that shows that you have the skill, right?
Yeah.
Young C's in the chat. What up, brother? You produced Manhattanite.
Manhattanite too, man. Young C made me more excited about that than Kaim.
I'm on that one.
Because he'd just be on me about it, yo. Young C actually, him saying that makes me like, oh shit, maybe.
No, I am excited. I just didn't want to make this like a personal thing. But okay, so you brought it up. I will say this. Young C was a dope producer. you know, everybody knows my thing to a fault. I like to like find people that are not known and be like, give this person a flower. So Young C was a dope producer coming up early. He'd be at all the shows, doing beats just for free, helping out, like you said, doing things that other people want to do. He was just always dropping beats and helping. And he gave me a CD. He had like, I had 3 CDs of these beats, and I'm at the desk job, right? Man's hitting me up like, yo, Ka, it's been a while. I'm doing this MIC thing, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, he gets me out the cubicle and makes me realize, like, oh, I got bars and I got stage presence. Like, I need to do something. And man, I think it was shout out to Lance and Karen, shout out to, you know, the folks. But I think Lance had like left for the weekend or something. And
I don't know. Maybe.
it was like you just had the crib to yourself one day. You know what I mean? This is how young we were. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you had the crib to yourself. And I was like, word? I got 3 CDs from my bro Young C. I'm coming through. And we just recorded the album. You know what I mean? I don't even know if you could say you really mixed and mastered it, but that's the whole story. That's how that was done. And to this day, it is classic. Like, when people hit me up and they say, like, yo, I was just listening to this, I'll be like, yo, this is dope. Like, it's a dope project.
Part 2. Part 2. Part 2 coming soon.
Part 2.
But like when you talking about work, even though you're not really being the artist coming up with the concepts in the album, when they're asking about who you like to work with, isn't certain amount of what you're still doing as an engineer, you're hearing about the tracks, the point of the tracks, like I think about tracks like Neighbors, where like if you see the video, they actually came to the thing, and I remember you were saying like you were basically the only one there at the time because the vocalists are gone and you're the engineer mixing, and thank God you stepped out to get your sandwich when the whole damn what do they call the squad people that come with all the guns and everything?
It was cops, but they look like squad.
Yeah, like when them people came with the battering rams.
But
Like-
they might have well been squad team. They're fully vested with ARs and all that. Like 20 of them.
And then I think about tracks, no pun intended, but Firing Squad, another track that like, you know, is controversial, and like you're privy to the conversations about these tracks, right? Like, oh, should an artist be putting this track out? Is it controversial? Is it not entertaining enough? It's not just for the club, like you're talking about social issues. That's part of what you consider when you're working with artists, right? Like, is that part of what an engineer is going through? Like they're also hearing the background track and the idea of the feelings and the
What do you mean?
emotions.
When
in the track?
mixing?
Yeah. Like, does that affect you, or is it just like whatever the track's about?
It could. I mean, you know, what they're saying more so just the impact you want to give it. So I wouldn't say though it could work like that, but I wouldn't necessarily say the content of the track would make me say it should be mixed this way. But the content, the actual words, you know, because it's more about the feeling of the music overall, you know, but there could be, this is a line and you know it's a moment, so you do something to make it stick out. You know what I mean? And you know, it should work though already the way it's produced or whatever, be going in that direction of like the words line up with the music. You know what I mean? Like the feeling lines up with what the words actually mean. You know, so, but I would say it's more the feeling than the words. You know?
So,
And that for the most part too is where, and this is why I say what I say, brother. It's not anybody who knows me. I don't do the as you said, I don't give enough, not enough. I don't jump into the, hey, this person is this person, so I gotta be a certain person around them to, you know what I mean? Like I'm just like we all bleed blood, we all human beings, man. So when I say that to say, when I say you a hidden gem, brother, is because you a hidden gem because of what you just said right there. You know what I'm saying? The fact that when you as an artist, you may put something out, right? Like it's just like, yo, Mez, need you to mix and master my track. Here you go. and some of the stuff that you hear, like where you like, damn, this right here would sound better with a reverb here, or this right here would sound better with an echo, or this right here to kind of like play with it just so that it's understood. Because a lot of times as artists, and that's when I started getting my tracks mixed and mastered, hitting the person who was doing it was like, yo, do this right here, take the music off here so that they can understand, you know what I mean? But you are a hidden gem in the sense that you already foreseeing how the audience is going to pick that up. So especially with true stories like that, like you like, yo, I think it'll be better if we go, you know, a cappella on just this side of the beat, just so that people understand how real, how much, and then especially with, you know, with Cole has his own little alter ego that he does, and you know, it's just kind of like, all right, cool. How do I bring that out without Cole losing who he is? You know what I mean? So it's just all
it's
those
like,
things.
you know, Cole sometimes want to sound, you know, like more like a mainstream hip hop, you know what I mean, let alone underground hip hop on some tracks, even in the beginning. And my question is, you know, you growing with that sound, you know, how often do you have to, you know, download, you know, new software, new equipment, you know, and upgrade your sound to keep up with the industry, the way that the industry quality is going? You know, how like that's a great answer for,
You know, I mean,
many.
to me, there's only so many instruments, anyways, engineering. So it's not even like, oh, I gotta get new. Though I do get new software, but it's not like it's not actually necessary. It's usually just like you want toys. You know what I mean?
So you still stick with Pro Tools or Fruity Loops? Like, is that an industry standard?
Pro Tools.
Pro Tools.
Yeah. I mean, I have a ton of plugins that I use, but it is like, the truth is you could do stock plugins and get a great mix.
Right.
If you know what you're doing. It's not, you know, sometimes I think it's like just bullshit, all the extra plugins. Though I use them. So I'm not saying don't use them. It's just, and sometimes they are better, you know, but it is.
I got a perfect example of that. I remember one time I'm chilling with Mez and you took me to the P's Uptown, right? And so we up in the P's, right? We go to a project, small apartment, just like light notes, like we have in the LES, small projects. It looked like a Nas video that he put out when he came back with the Still Nasty. Imagine that scene, right? But I'm walking through with Mez, I'm like, oh, we in the P's, like we just seeing your man. And we walk through to the back, and he got a Neumann. Now this, Ron knows, engineers know, MCs, y'all might not know, you probably just have the privilege. But this is a mic that costs your salary. We in the projects where, like to Mez's point, the regular engineer would not be in this space. And we here, I'm just thinking, we saying what's up to his mans, and he got the setup. You know what I mean? So it's like, you know pretty much what equipment you're gonna have, and whether it's in like Jay-Z's studio or whether it's in the projects, you're gonna try to get that same sound, right?
I mean, you're gonna work with what you have. People have high-end equipment, and big people, you know, and sometimes the shit still distort or it comes out a bad vocal and stuff like that. It's not all about the equipment, you know. It's also about what you set the equipment to, you know, more so.
Hey, are you saying that in these professional studio sessions they have to do take after take too?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. See, listen, family, it ain't perfect in the industry. No,
and you know what I think it is too, B, because a lot of industry dudes, man, damn it, man. A lot of dudes build these facades. Yeah. So when you hear a lot of artists talk about, yo, I go in there one take, or I don't write.
I feel like I don't write in the. Jay-Z started all of those things you're talking about.
Yes.
I've never recorded Jay-Z.
Right. So
as far as people think, though, I'm sure that.
Wait, who did Star Is Born?
I heard about it, and I don't think he do like write stuff down like that.
No,
But
but you know what it is, though, Mez.
as
Okay,
far as people think, like people get it to the point of like, I'm sure if he had to do something over, he does it over.
right.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
think more so too is a lot of times. So
And sometimes he
there's,
comes one take, and they hear that on a record, which
yeah,
everybody one take sometimes, and it's like
right.
one take, and that's just because he probably rehearsed the verse man times. He was like,
A thousand
I go
percent. And
verse
this is what
down
I'm
pat.
talking about, man.
Yeah,
Because a lot of people who sit there and be like, yo, all of Jay's albums, he go in the booth and take it one take. And I'm like, listen, man, let me explain something to you. When you talk about dudes who could go off the head, one of the best to me, for the most part, right? Most
they're
def
not
to
talking
me,
about going off the head with Jay. He's not talking
right.
about going off
They
the head.
talking about just not writing.
Yeah. He just thinks about the lines ahead of time.
Right.
He doesn't write it down on a piece of paper. To me, it's not any different.
He got the studio time to sit there in front of the mic and say, no, scratch that. Hold on, I'm gonna say this.
Yeah.
And then,
But also, I think he thinks, just while he's walking around, and he'll memorize it while he's walking around. So it's the same thing as writing. Of course,
Exactly.
That's impressive. That's like you're doing something that a lot
it's dope. That's super dope.
It's practice. It's not. He's not just like. It's not magical.
Right.
Yeah, it's very impressive. Yeah.
It's just a point for like younger people coming up to know like it's a dope thing he does, but it doesn't mean if you don't like go in the studio and mess up, you don't have the gift because he was practicing. You know what I mean?
Right.
And he was working with other artists. He was working with Big Daddy Kane.
Up. It's just saying he memorizes the verse like you memorize it. Like we've written verses and we memorize them. Then we go out and some of them. That's our go-to verse. We don't never mess that up. We go in the we're not gonna mess it up. It's gonna be one take, and it's just like, I know this verse so well. It's gonna be one take. You ready?
Right. And I think that's important for the young artists, and that's why I gotta kind of emphasize on that and highlight and air quotes or whatever it is that's needed, because a lot of people, they go into this mentality of, yo, fam, if you ain't going in there and knocking it out one time. One shot, is you're trash. And I've heard a lot of people do things one time. Their verse that one time was trash. And it don't matter if they memorized it or not. It was just kind of like, fam, there's no wordplay. There's no nothing. There's just you talking about, ran up on a cat with the gat and that. And it's like, all right, that's dope. But fam, you didn't say nothing. You know what I mean? So your one take, if somebody took 10 times or 20 times to get this one verse though.
It's a thing that doesn't mean anything. This doesn't mean anything to the final product, Like all that matters, the thing you should know is the vision. Like to know it's supposed to sound like this, because even if you take 100 times or one time, maybe you'll figure it out 100 times, but you probably didn't need 100 times because you didn't know, oh, that was the word that was off. Let me just punch that or whatever. So the important thing is you have a vision of where it's supposed to be and you make that happen, no matter how many times it takes,
One of the things, correct me if I'm wrong, that you told me along these lines was, I think it was Marsha Ambrosius or Dr. Dre that you said you picked it up from, but it was a technique where they had the record loop. So not just the beat loop and the record loop, and they would just record those bars over and over until they got into a zone where the last take was sounding like the current take, and so it wasn't a matter of getting it done.
A lot of people, a lot of writers, but yeah, I mean they might record a stack, and then go over the first stacks, which is pretty common. Working with writers is not. I worked with writers a lot in my life, and people that just write the songs. They don't even, they might be singers.
You mean the people they're doing references for someone else to?
Yeah, but these are as good, if not better, than the songs a lot of times.
Oh yeah.
Marsha and Butterfly.
Yeah.
If you hear, I love Michael Jackson songs, but Butterfly, her reference is like better than the Michael Jackson versions.
Yeah. Well, she wrote it,
As we coming up to this hour and a half mark, I want to ask you this question that's in the chat, which is a very great question. Once again, he says, congrats on all of your success you have. What are your goals for 2021? Any up and coming projects would you like to mention?
including the SoundMinds compilation.
Ah,
The Manhattan Nights album and part 2 and the SoundMinds compilation.
Mines.
Yeah,
SoundMinds.
my goals for 2021 might be actually like doing a little more teaching, maybe put in a little more up on social media, or maybe do a Twitch or something, just to get a little bit more traction and talk to people more, because I'm pretty to myself about everything that I would like to teach. I just hate social media. But yeah, that's the main thing. And of course, Dreamville gonna have some stuff dropping. And I've been working with people over there.
That's dope.
Mez, quick question, brother, and it's funny because this is kind of like already
Yeah.
been answered. But I need you to kind of Picasso this out for those who don't
Yeah.
understand. How important is it for, like I said again, your joint could be straight flame throwing fire, but if it's not mixed, mastered, and mixed down correctly, you know what I'm saying? How important is it to have that clean, the clean version of your project, even though something that you put out may be dope, but it's just not touched like that, you know what I mean, by a proper engineer? How, you being who you are, the master of your art, how important is it to you, and what word would you tell to those who are just like kind of just putting music out, like, yo, I just want to get stuff out? What is your feelings on that?
My feelings aren't what you might think they are. Like I definitely, one thing is, I don't think you should let that hold you up. That's one thing not to do. So I don't put it as more important that you would go, man, I gotta get money to get an engineer to get this to sound as professional as these other guys. You can always go back to it if it becomes a hit, or if it even picks up traction or anything. I think also a lot of importance needs to put on the necessities. If you just make sure the balance is correct, you're mostly there, rather than, because I think a lot of that, when it gets into that mind state of like, I need it mixed, it becomes a block for people, or it becomes an overcompensation to where they don't know what they're doing, so they're putting effects and things that don't even make no sense, and it just sounds even more awkward. While if you just balanced it right, you'd probably be good to go. Just focus on that if you don't got the money. Besides that, it could help greatly, or mess it up greatly if you did a bad job. That's why I say focus on the basics. But it'll definitely give you an extra boost.
That goes into my last question of the day. A lot of these things, whether it's like being able to record with the most underground cat that reaches out, or the biggest star in the world, whether being able to record with a Neumann, or whether being able to say, look, do the best of what you have. Um, you know, the flyer for this episode says Jerome S. Davis, mixing sound, mastering minds. I feel like a lot of this concept of balance, it's very literally balancing out frequencies and mixing, but it's also a very, whether it's Buddhism, Taoism, I feel like a lot of your approach isn't just about music and sound. It's actually about having a balanced mindset, just being spiritually and soulfully and mentally balanced. Um, what are some of the things that you appreciate from people in the past, like Sun Tzu or the Tao Te Ching or things like that? Do you feel like when you're making music, you're actually practicing some of these balance
I think in
principles
life,
of not
yeah.
overdoing it?
No, I think in life, any of those type of practices, you they're for every aspect of life. If you get into mental stuff, so even that, it's like letting go. A lot of the time, like what there's the Taoist quote, something at the end of a Taoist quote. I don't can't quote the whole thing verbatim, but at the end it does say like do your work and then let go of it, you know, and that's really kind of what it is. So that's why I also say, yeah, like don't let that hold you up. Like do your job and then just let it out and move on with your life and do the next job, you know. You don't want to, I see too much people sit on things. People want the perfect thing, myself included. Sit on a mix, keep doing it, you know, and especially when you don't actually know what's going to do it, you know, so then you keep working on something that doesn't even have what you want out of it, you know, like fix what it is and then do another thing, you know. Don't try to make it into something it's not, you know. So yeah, definitely take those things into account and or try to, you know. I definitely think the better you are at that, the further you'll get.
Thank you.
And I think, you know, it's crazy, man. And to kind of piggyback off of that, right? Again, going back to who you are as a person and just the team that you're a part of. You know what I'm saying? Like, honestly, Jed, Bazzi, you know what I mean? That, by the way, man, that Too High to Riot be crazy. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
looking at the team that you're a part of, you know what I'm saying? Everybody seems to have that, you know, Ari be on live just joking and playing around with people and just seeing that humility and that human side of artists who are looked up to by many, right? And I think a lot of that kind of comes through philosophies of kind of like practices that you all kind of putting together, man. And I think that's dope that you are, like I said, man, with the talents and the mastering that you have done of the art that you are a part of, you're still on some humble, like, nah, you can still feel me, I'm flesh. You know what I'm saying? And I think that all of y'all together make a very superhuman team, because there's other teams out there that is like, yo, they dope, but you can't look at them. You ask for an autograph and they're like, yo, you ain't worth that. You know what I mean? Or you're beneath me. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to y'all, man. And I think, you know, the more that we see that, the more even the young and those in the middle and those, the OGs, start to realize, nah, man, it's so much more important to be human and to be of flesh and to understand that everything we do is of flesh and how we give more so that we can continue this culture. Because hip hop, honestly speaking, every musical genre that's out there has kind of, in a sense, outlived itself, but it will never have to worry about getting killed off. Hip hop, the culture, the reason hip hop was created has transcended or even diluted to something worse than its original form. And it's just kind of like, that's a genre that we can easily see out of all genres can easily get killed off and die out. Whereas just like, well, no, it's not no longer hip hop. Now it's pop rap. You know what I mean? And
so any genre could do that. It's not really not special to this one.
No, but I think the value of what the genre is. Because it's, you know what I'm saying?
Culture. The culture.
Right.
For
the
sure.
culture itself, you know, it's just kind of like, you know, we have A+ on here.
Yeah, it's very particular.
It is.
It has a lot of great roots that are, you know, mostly are already dead anyways, is the truth of the matter, you know, like they're underlying there, you know, there's still people that take to a lot of hip hop stuff, but even, you know, just the pillars of it, even like graffiti's way deader than it was, you know, like breakdancing's pretty dead. Like, you know, we say, oh, it's still rocking, but it's not really.
Yeah, DJing, you know, DJing used to cut on records and now DJing is digital. You know what I'm saying? So now when you call for a DJ, it's like, yo, DJ the party. All right, cool. I'll bring my streams, and it's like, damn. So yeah, definitely. But go ahead.
But for that, I gotta bring it back to something you said earlier, Mez, which is that like some of these things haven't so much changed as like the audiences that they reach. So like I'm privileged though, because I'm around like a whole B-boy, B-girl community, right? So I'm doing these events and stuff like that. A lot of MCs, just like how they be like, yo, soundman, blah, blah, not respecting the soundman. They don't realize like when you rock with B-boys and B-girls, like they get you in touch with the culture like
Oh,
nobody
yeah,
else. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
it's
But
amazing.
in the mainstream, they're not recognized now. That's
You
true.
know what that's like? You know what that's like? That's like going to a Native American ritual.
Powwow.
Have you ever
Yeah,
been to
the
one? I've been.
powwows. Yeah.
It's like, oh,
I
you
got my name, tall tree growing
yeah,
on the
like,
mountain.
but that's like going to Rocksteady or something, at this point. And there's no disrespect to them. I have all respect to them. And these are the pioneers. I have I give all my respect to them.
Right.
But
Absolutely.
that's what it's like at this point. Things do change. You can't be resistant to the change either. You could only move with it and try to keep it going in the right direction. But if you try to make it not change, it's definitely gonna fail. Like that's one thing. If you're resistant to that, it's over. The whole thing's over. So it's good to change. Yeah, that's how I
That's
feel
what's
about it.
up.
Well, with that being said, my brother, I would like to ask you, do you have any, last words, for the people, anything that you would like to, share, or just let everybody know where to find you, even find your website or your where to follow you?
I mean, I guess most active, if you want to say I'm active at all, on social media on Instagram, which is Jeromez. But I'm not active like that on that. But that's it.
You're active like
That's the thing
Kanye
I
made
like
me
the
post
most.
this.
Yeah, out of everything. Yeah,
Dreamville made me post this.
yeah.
They say Mez need to come to Hartford.
Mm. Been there. I come back.
Yo, Mez has been in Hartford, just so y'all know. Mez came through a couple times for real.
And with that being said, too, man, and the nature of the vein of what we do, hip hop, man, and hip hop oriented, and who SoundMinds is, man, bringing guests like Mez on. I want to let it be known too before we get off this air. It has just been put out recently, Grandmaster Caz, and I hope that I'm not speaking out of term. I reached out to Curtis, and shout out to you, Curtis. It's been put out there that Curtis just received a heart transplant. You know what I'm saying? He's recovering. And that is the reason as to why, the season 2 finale, when we had him set up, he didn't do it. We held on to that, you know what I'm saying, with all due respect to his family, to his situation and his privacy. But, Grandmaster Cass just put that out there, man. So we want to say that's the reason why Curtis wasn't on here, man. And prayers up to you, big brother. You know what I mean? Prayers up to you because you are a pillar of what this culture is. You know what I'm saying? And I think that is much needed for us to understand that when I speak, like the question I just asked Maz in regards to like the preservation of the culture. If youngins don't know who, Curtis is, who Curtis Blow is, you need to do the research, man, because this is the preservation of that. You know what I mean? How we preserve the culture and how we keep it going. So you have our praise. Sam Mars is here. You have our praise, man. We know that you're going to become out, you're going to come out of this stronger than you ever went into it. You know what I'm saying? So, but as you see, Curtis, if you ever see this, this is what hip hop looks like. This is what the preservation of hip hop looks like. When you see 4 brothers on here who have not in any way shied away from what you have helped to create, this is what we're here for. So shout out to you, speedy recovery, brother. And, to you and your family, man, and all your loved ones, whatever SoundMinds could do at any given time, we here, you know what I'm saying? But thank you for what you've been to the culture, and thank you for what you've been to all of us growing up.
Sound minds.
Powerful. Sound minds.
SoundMinds. So, Mez, brother, it's been a great hour and 43 minutes, man. You have created such a lane for so many people that are probably looking at certain things and saying, damn, I want to be a part of hip hop or rap for that matter. And I just don't fit in because I don't have the cadence or the flow. I don't know how to write rhymes. And you have created a lane where it's just like, yo, learn your craft. This man told you, I wasn't into mixing and mastering and engineering. I learned it because it had to be done. You know what I mean? So, and now he is a master of that. When you speak about, certain masters, Sun Tzu was the master of war and peace. This man is the master of what he does. And it's only because he put that work in he studied and he did what he had to do because he felt this needs to be done. So thank you for that, brother. Thank you for shining that light, you know what I mean, that flashlight on something that a lot of people probably didn't know, like, oh, I could do that and be a part of hip hop. You know what I mean? So shout out to you, man, for being a dope one, man.
Yo, like, pardon me, G. Late Company, like, I got some B-boys and B-girls on here, and they just, I do have to salute them. They officially, is it official? I know they said that it was getting close to it, but Late Company saying it's official that B-boy is going to be in the Olympics. So I got you. I got you. Like, I got you. I got you. You know what I mean?
Fire.
And
Hey,
the coaches, for those of us who it's just no excuses. I think that's basically what we learned on today's podcast. It's like, don't worry about what people see or don't see. And I do want to shout out Eve one time. Like Mez mentioned, Eve, a lot of people don't understand. There's a guy named Eve, you know, managing Dreamville, and he's a perfect example of this. You know what I mean? He's not mixing the sound. He's not rapping. He's not producing. But without Eve, a lot of this camaraderie and this revenge of the, you know, all these projects probably wouldn't be what they are either, right, Med? So shout out to people like that. It's not always about being like me. I got a big mouth and you're gonna see my face. The job of people like me is to salute those B-boys and B-girls and managers, the people behind the scene that is doing just as much work, if not more. But they don't want to necessarily let you hear their voice and see their face.
that's just powerful, powerful, powerful. And with that being said, family, listen, if you know what we about to say, post it in the chat, leave it in the comment. But we gonna see y'all next week, next Sunday.
Yes, sir. Another dope episode, y'all. With that being said, on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3.
SoundMinds.
Maz, you are in the circle, brother. Whatever ever needed, we here for you too, man.
Oh yeah, man.
In the constellation.